Hello and welcome to the Bricecast. This is episode 8, I believe. I keep putting the same number on all the thumbnails, so I keep having to check. Yeah, we're cracking through them. Obviously, I am Bryce. I'll be bringing you all the action today. Action-packed week, lots to talk about, but we'll get through it. Fortunately, I have brought a beautiful man and brilliant mind onto the podcast with me this time. Miles, how are you?
Brycey, I'm very well, mate. I'm very, very well. Quite tired, but the recent events, the COD World news has kept a pep in my step, mate. I'll say that much.
I mean, that's the crazy thing, right? Is Call of Duty had a great week, but you've also had a great week because you have a new puppy, which is
I do, mate.
stunning.
He's a sweet boy. Hang on, I still gonna get him. Luca? Oh no, he's fucked. No, he's in the naughty corner. He's probably taking a shit on something.
Oh, lovely.
But yeah, mate. No, it's been cool. It's been cool. Check my Instagram and my Twitter for thousands of pictures. Thousands of pictures.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that at all. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's jump straight into the news then. We will go into Cold War in a minute. Have you played Cold War, by the way?
Mate, I have not. I've not. I know people who have played Cold War, and they've told me nothing. As they're not allowed, they're not allowed to say anything. You sign an NDA, as some people have found out. Obviously, with footage getting leaked, that person I don't think was involved in the launch.
No,
as a result of that,
no,
an obvious name missing. But that's as far as we have to go there. But no, I haven't played it. I did really like what I saw, though. I genuinely think it sort of seems to be a really healthy mix in between like where we're at with Modern Warfare, the things we liked about Modern Warfare, and all the things we've come to expect of a Treyarch game. So I think we're actually in a good spot, like surface level. I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think so as well. But we'll get to that and we'll kind of break down stuff we've heard about it and so on and so forth. And obviously, you can sidestep all the things you're not supposed to say, and I'll try.
I don't know shit.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nobody made me sign nothing.
But we got to talk about Rostermania because I thought last Rostermania would be interesting, obviously because of all these players getting signed and everything. This is the season of player dropping. 45 players or something? 45 players without a guaranteed spot for next year.
Amazing.
It's unreal, right?
Well, we always talk about Rostermania. We all want it to be drama-filled. We want to see some spice in the timelines. We want to see, we want those like dream rosters to be built. And I sort of, we almost got that with the opening season of the CDL. We almost got, okay, this is it. Teams you've never seen form before. Very few squads made it across from into the era of franchising, and it was really fun. It was really exciting. I think that was the best quote unquote Rostermania we're going to see.
Yeah.
This was more like a purge. This was way more cutthroat, and I think a lot of people are throwing around that like, oh, it was business decisions or it was, I don't know, like contract stuff. But at the end of the day, like this was a cataclysmic shift in the COD world, right? 4v4 is something that we have been harping on about since Black Ops 4.
Yeah.
We've wanted it dearly. Like, and this is player consensus. This is commentator. This is almost everyone across the board. As far as I know, the only people who really pushed for 5v5 was Treyarch when BO4 came out. They wanted to showcase the operators. We fucking didn't. We did not showcase. Not the operators. What do they call them? The fucking all this like the specialists, right? That's what we wanted. We wanted they wanted to be like, cool. Let's see how all those skills interplay with each other. Fucking didn't, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
This wasn't quite Overwatch. They didn't build the Avengers. It was still just COD, and the competitive community did what they do with it, right? So I think that's fine. And now we're in a situation where we've kind of rolled back, and of course it's Treyarch once again at the helm, being like, "Fuck it, we tried something, it didn't work. Let's roll that shit back," right? That's been really cool for me. So again, I think we're in a good spot, but just 4v4, it's where we should be, man. It's just where we should be.
No, I feel like funny enough, Hastro didn't agree with me when I had him on last week. He said he liked 5v5, which I obviously, he can have his own opinion. I just disagree with his opinion. And you are right. Like, I feel like it's something that we've all known about, but people haven't been like allowed to say in that context, because you can't just go there and say it's bad, it's worse. Especially, when you're working for the company, you can't go, no, this is a terrible decision. Even though behind the scenes, everyone went, yeah, this is a terrible decision. this is bad. Mess, yeah. We hate this.
I kind of get it, but we're all just like, whoa, this is like a bag of cats. Like, this shit's crazy. This is. I just think we've come so far, and I think everyone's so much more mature about this. I think everyone is so much more mature about this. Not even just players, well, maybe not the players. Scratch that. But
So we got to
like
go on to that
the
at some point.
like the commentators and like even like the businesses like Treyarch and the way Treyarch handle shit online, the way Infinity Ward handle shit online. Like again, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but like I think everyone's getting much better at this. And like transparency really helps. Like the fact that we only push fives because Treyarch wanted to do it for their game, and we were like, this might be the way it is forever now. Like the fact that now it's no longer that way, like, is pretty cool. I just worry about the future of players, and not necessarily like the health of the league, but like the health and virility of like the player pool, like the professional player pool. That's one of my biggest concerns. Because we've asked a lot of folks. You said it there, Bryce, 45 plus, probably for a week now. I haven't checked Twitter. That number could be outdated. I truly think that, like, yeah, that's we've taken a big hit, a big hit of a lot of talent that's not going to be on starting rosters, substitutes who may never see a starting roster again in the professional scenes. Like, get ready to lose some household names.
It's horrifying. It is horror, and we won't go into this now. But I've been working on. At least I've written down a few bits, but I've been re-looking at the Challenger League because I think it's now more important than ever. And I have made it vocal, and it's always been difficult for me to say things about Challenger because obviously there is a certain amount of bias there, considering I did the Open bracket. And I've said before, I thought there was a ton of mistakes made with the way that the Open was broadcast when I was doing it. I made that very well known to the people behind the scenes. I think I tweeted about it. I've talked about it. I think not doing challenges is somehow worse. I was like, well, we've made a lot of mistakes doing the open bracket, and then they got the challenges. Like, well, we won't do it then. I'm like, oh god, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. It's not the bad way or nothing.
We're trying to help.
So I'm actually like, I've got to do a video on it, and it's a quite intensive video because you have to be very careful with these things. But it is. Right now, you are right. It is crazy because I believe there is a very healthy amount of competition in the challenges, and I almost liken it to, like, college sports in America. Right, there is this underlay, and people love it. People get really into that, even though they're not the big super names. I'm like, well, why can't we have that in Call of Duty? We have a unique esport in the fact that we do have this thriving open event thing that we've always had, a massive sense of community. That's what I want, and I think now is the time to strike. I've been hearing rumours that obviously it is changing anyway, but that's what I want. If we are going to drop to 4v4 again, and all these talented people are going down, and there's more teams in challenges now, we know, Miles, that if we took some of the challenger teams and put them into the league last year, they would have beaten some teams.
I think at times, yeah, I agree. I think at times, yeah.
And yet some of those players will never get picked up, especially this year. I don't think we're going to see more than like maybe 1 or 2 amateurs, period, come up.
But yeah, there's no way. I mean, look, if you look at, I talked about this to no end on my stream with casual COD fans, but like, take every single roster, delete one player, right? That player probably goes to the bench, right? And that's if they don't. If they do go to the bench, cool. If they don't, well, now you have to get rid of almost all of your bench because it's like a minimum 5 or maximum of 5 players, 4 starters, and 1 on the bench, right?
Yeah.
So now look at Toronto, half the roster's gone. All those players now free agent. You just keep trimming. All these little shavings of these carrots are now in the sink. That sink is full of carrot, full of it, right? You have to do something with those players, and they're all good. They're all perfectly capable, and in the right combinations, they're championship winners, right? That is like the most daunting thought as like a GM or an owner. Like, I got a DM from one of the owners yesterday, and he just goes, "What do you think about all this?" And I was like, "It looks insane." And he was like, "We're trying to work out XYZ, da da da." And I was like, "Give us some dirt, give me some rumors." Didn't get shit, but it was just to hear that it's from the top level down. They're looking at this like, this is really difficult to work out. This is a very, very difficult situation, like, and that's not even knowing the complexities of like people's individual salaries, the contracts they've all got, like how complicated those are. Because like, I hear things every now and then about like, hey, this guy's got a special clause in his contract that means like if he gets an all-stars, that's really, really important for him, and what happens for his career next year. And I'm like, but that might have nothing to do with anything. That might be down to player voting or like the commentators voting. Like, what the fuck? Like, someone's career is based off of like an arbitrary decision that's made by the fans. I'm like, that's terrifying. Or like with Crim, we gave Crim the MVP. We could have given it to Clay, but like the consensus was there. Like, okay, if we give Clay MVP, does he remain on the roster and Crim's the one that's now looking for a squad? Like, what the fuck? I don't think that's what's happened, but like that, it just thinking about the amount of decisions and the amount of challenges to go through all this, like for the GMs and for the owners, is staggering, man. It's exhausting.
No, I can totally sympathise with that. I had funny enough, before I was doing this, I was in a call for the Esports Awards about all the things this year, and it always gets me because if I see a weird nomination on Twitter for that sort of stuff, and people are like, "Yo, who's on this panel?" and I'm sitting there going, "Shit, I'm on the panel, but that's not the way I voted." There's nothing I can do about it. The panel's like 24 deep, and that's the thing, right? Like, you liken it to like these minute decisions make such a big impact. Like, I know last year, in the Esports Awards, I voted for Simp for Console Player of the Year for many reasons, and I was in the panel discussion call, and I said, "Look," and it wasn't just me. There were a few other people in there that even with were voting, said the same thing. Look, this guy's done more than any other console player this year. And unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, there were a load of morons in there who didn't vote that way. And then there was something to do with the number. It was so. And then when another name came out, credit to them. I think it was Sonic Fox. I think.
Probably. Yeah.
And I was like, Christ. I was like, come on, that was one of the greatest, come ups ever. But that's a change, right? Because now he's not console player of the year last year. He was just rookie of the year. And that's still a massive achievement, but it's a massive difference in terms of something you put on your CV. And I mean, this Rostermania already has got a bit down and dirty, right? Like, people are having to go about the 4v4 with no expansion. People are stabbing people in the back on Twitter by the look of it. And we'll go into that in just a second. And I've heard shit about agents this year as well, just being scumbags. And I've banged on about it before, Miles. You know my theory on all this. I basically just hate everybody. It is insane. Let's talk a little bit about. We got to cover it, right? We got to cover the Wuskinz versus, is it Assault? I think
it was Assault. Yeah. It was Assault. It was essentially Assault versus the Marshals, right?
Yeah.
My surface level take on this, like, I went through Reddit, I had a little breeze of the Reddit post, I saw the tweets as they came through. I thought it was bad taste. I thought it was really, really bad taste. Assault's not a bad player. As far as I'm aware, he's not a bad dude. But like, something in him, and maybe after a bad year, like, personal stuff aside, I don't know anything about his personal life. Obviously, getting dropped from the Rocket roster or being released, as I think we call it these days, it's clearly had a hit on him. And don't get me wrong, COVID is challenging. Quarantine is hard, and especially out here in the US, where like most cities, you can't go out. You're not meant to go out. It's driving us all mental, right?
Not me. I'm a hermit. I'm fine.
Even as I'm also a bit of a hermit. Like, I'll go down on the road, get a cup of coffee, whatever. I'll come back. But like, it's just driving everyone a bit mad. And I feel like the tension could not be higher, especially for the players. Like, Champs was in our bedrooms for $4 million, right? All of that is just weighing in, and it's just we're reaching a point where I'm actually surprised more shit hasn't happened at this point in time. The sort of boiling pot of personalities and stress and pressure that this industry and these players have anyway, right? I'm amazed that we didn't go further. I'm amazed that something more dramatic hasn't happened. But as far as I'm concerned, it's bad taste from Assault. And I think there was a post on Reddit that was like, this is not his first offense. Someone made like a little compilation, like a collage of like old Assault quotes of him talking about like how much money he's won, slamming methods, or like saying like, how am I not one of the top ARs in the game? And like really calling out the fans, really calling out the players. And I just thought like, all right, man, like, fucking get over it. Like, I get this is a tough time. I get you going through a lot of shit. I get there's a lot of pressure on your plate. Awful. Everything's bad. But don't bring a rumor to the timeline when that sort of shit can influence people's careers, right?
Yeah.
That's bad taste, man. And that lines up with everything I've just said about who's winning MVPs or like who's getting shit done based on fan votes, whatever. All that shit adds up. And this just feels like one that you didn't need to make so public, right? And that's where I'm so upset about this. That's where I think this is a real bad move from Assault.
No, I agree with you there, because I think the biggest problem I have with what he did, right, is the fact that we don't know if it's true, right? Like, who knows if it's true? Like, if it is true, then it's still not your place to say it, right? No. It's just not. If it isn't true, then why are you saying? And the thing is, we'll never know. We'll never know what the truth is there, because how can we? And here's the thing: regardless of what you hear in the background, you never know. Like, they could have been the Marshals could have been doing this shit. They could have been. But even people who know the truth, like their teammates or they're never going to tell us. They're never going to tell us. So Assault's basically like, you are right. He just went into the Reddit, and I was like, Because I thought it was on Twitter. I first started to look for when he said this on Twitter. I was like, what do you mean it's in the Reddit? It's not even a thread. He's just put it into one of the things. Just slipped it in, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why is that in there?
Just browsing the TL, looking for shit to stir. Like, man, and this is, you think of like all the other stuff that we've heard about this year, like all the drama with OGLA and Dashi maybe being underperforming because he didn't want to be on the roster and he was sandbagging intentionally, whatever. Like, we are all speculating that's the case. Kenny's come out and said nothing really of any value. No one on that squad's saying anything of any value. They let him go. They were like, cheers for your time, mate. Thanks for that wicked search and destroy on Piccadilly, whatever. Like, that's where we left it. They didn't have to go, Mans wasn't getting up, wasn't doing all this shit. Like, yeah, I know there was a degree of that, but like, it's just not the same. Like, it's not the same as publicly outing someone when in this world and in this job, your relationships are everything. It's everything. How you network. We call it the friend league throughout what BO4,
Yeah.
and like the start of this, it was like, well, who's your mates? Well, there's going to be teammates because they're the ones you're going to get on with and play the game with at a high level all year long. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter who's good. How did Bose get a fucking sub spot?
Hey,
How did Maniac?
Hey,
How did
you
Maniac
don't-
go? Look, I love them both, but I'm pretty sure Maniac has never played on the PlayStation 4. Like, I'll go as far to say that now. Don't get me wrong, massive fan of his Halo career. What the fuck's he doing on a roster? I don't know.
I'm
But
I'm
that's not up to
hoping
me.
there's less of that this year. Now there's only what
I
like,
don't think there'll be any of that this year, bro. I don't think there'll be any of that. And it's just weird to me. It's just weird to me. But that is a perfect indicator of friends get jobs, friends get, networking is so important. It's the same in our job. You got to know the right people.
Yeah.
And if you don't know those people, or if those people know you and they think you're a twat, you're not going to get the job. Not in your case, I think, Bryce. I think everyone.
No, I'm just twat. That's basically how it is. Just call me out there. It's fine. I don't know anybody. All right, Miles. Jesus.
This is not where I thought we were going.
No. I think it bothers me. Like, there's so much that bothers me, and I try not to rant daily about this shit because I just look bitter. And it's like, here's the thing, and it's one of the reasons I like talking on the podcast about this, because I can't put my thoughts into a fucking as many characters on Twitter as it allows you nowadays. Like, there's no way to explain context. There's no way to add caveats and play devil's advocate with this shit. I've said before, I consider most of the staff in here, at least in the very first year, incompetent. In the franchises, right? I've said it publicly. I believe, and I don't think in a lot of cases, not their fault. Some of the coaches don't have the experience. Some of the coaches don't have the power, right? We don't know what's going on internally in the franchises. Like, there's no way for them to be competent, right? And that's fine, but just accept that is a thing rather than covering it up. And it's the same way with these players. Like, we don't know, and you don't know. Say let's take say you're Toronto Ultra, right? And you want to pick up a new player from Surge. You want to pick up Apathy, right? You can only go on what you see on screen. You don't know he's behind the scenes because their coaches ain't going to tell you shit. They ain't going to tell you the truth. Like, they might, but could you take that? Like, how do you know the right move to make there at this stage, especially with the CDO in its first year? Because people, bear in mind, I said this before. The years we've had before has been full of cowboys, shysters, con men, and idiots. There are some good eggs. Not going to deny that. There are some good eggs. But then you move into
Great
CDL,
eggs.
right? You move into CDL, the franchising, and everybody's taking a step up. It is a step higher now. We are more professional. We are doing more work. Those same people are still in those fucking jobs. It's not. They haven't suddenly transformed. We've not got a whole new roster of people because it isn't that deep. The talent pool for that sort of thing isn't that deep. And these people will have to get better, and they will eventually be weeded out. But we don't know. We don't know if a pro player is rocking up 3 minutes after they woke up to a scrim, putting in a half shift, and can't be bothered to be coached, but still putting up okay numbers on teams. You're like, oh, he's had an okay, consistent year. He could be a lot better. He could be dragging his teammates down. Maybe he just baits the shit out of everybody. We don't know. We don't get to see everything. It's like, I don't envy any franchise in Rostermania because I think it's so easy to get it wrong.
It is. And not only is it easy to get it wrong, but what are you basing a lot of your decisions off of? Players telling you, I want to team with this guy, he's really good, and he's my mate. And we saw them play the Cold War beta, and he looked all right. You know what I mean? You're building your roster on very, very unreliable data, right? And that's something that I think we have as an issue in COD here, where it's like, it happened last year, right? People put down on paper some of the sickest rosters in history, maybe for the game before, right?
Yeah.
Going into a brand new game where everything is different, it's fucking impossible. It's impossible to predict for the future, especially with a game that changes so much like COD can. Patches can be huge. They can have such earth-shattering consequences on the way we play the game. and that can change the way a player is. Like, look at the way the Sorg changed BO4. Like, all of a sudden, bang, Simp's the man. Yeah, he was great all year, but you've just given him a change that's made him and Abizi literally the two most dangerous players in the league. Like, that shit happens. And you can't predict that stuff. You just have to get these players. I think the best way to go at this now, like saying all that out loud, you have to have a roster of players, across like the sort of character makeup of a team.
Yeah.
You need a strong leader who can lead, who can genuinely lead from the front. And I mean that in game and I mean that out of game. Someone who keeps everyone's heads cool. You need some superstar dude who can go absolutely off his head. And then you need two players who are super reliable. It's like a band, man. You need the bassist and the drummer to keep the rhythm going, make sure everything's cool. Front man, make sure that, everyone's having a good time. And the dude in the lead guitar is giving it what he can there. Sure, with 5v5, you would have had a rhythm guitarist, maybe a keyboard player. But fuck it, we're a 4-piece. I just think that, you just need to have this more solid makeup. And I think that's the sort of template that these coaches and GMs have to have going into this. And that's not a lot of players to work with.
No.
It's so hard, man. No envy whatsoever for the people who have to do that now. And if you're listening, man, my prayers for you, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's a good point brought up. Like, I was thinking about this with what Wuskinz said. He said, "Oh, this is now a black mark against my name," and I'm like, that's probably true, actually. Now I think about it, that's actually probably very true. And the reason being is like something I said, sometimes you have to measure the intangibles. And it's not easy to do that when you don't, all you get to see is like a glorified version of that player on main stage telling you how much they want to, to win, to practice. And you sit there going, none of these players are perfect. Some of them are going to have off days, some of them are going to be arseholes behind the scenes. Miles, we probably know more than most people of what we've heard about players behind the scenes, right?
Some of it's
think of it's not public, because for some reason players like talking to casters. That must be why.
Some of it great though. Some of it's really good. I feel terrible for some of them. I'm like, mate, here's some good advice. Do this, do that. Whatever. Blah blah blah. But trust me, I've been around the block. Blah blah blah.
I feel like this is the point now where we will start seeing more of that come to, because people will be looking further on, because everybody goes at the start of the year, it's the same shit. Right? Oh, I'm super dedicated to this team. We're going to be great. Love the vibes. 3 months in, they've had a shit couple of events. They're like, oh, it's all, I don't want to get up for practice, or he's not practicing, or he's not doing this right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, and this is kind of painting a brush over everybody, but it's something I've always believed. I don't know how coachable players are right now because they aren't used to being coached. Period. Like,
that's a really good point.
Like, that's just not happened. You say these players with the discipline to sit down and admit they've done shit or admit they've got a bad attitude, they aren't always going to be the players you expect. Some people's raw talent will carry them through, and they'll just use that to carry on. Oh, I'm dropping a 1.2, so fuck the rest of you. Regardless of whether or not they're supporting the teammates or helping break shit down. I'm hoping the coaching staff, as we get further into this, will be able to go, right, this guy is coachable. He may not be the greatest at this point, but give me 9 months. Give me the league, and we will get him there. Because realistically, you've got to do well at champs. But I don't know how many players like that there are, because I don't think players are as coachable as they could be.
I think it's a really, really good point, man. And I go back to the idea of like, with coaches and whatnot, you're like, okay, so who were the most impactful players this year? For me, bar none, it was either super humble young upstarts like the Shotzies or the Mac Melts guys, like those dudes who came in from the amateur side of things, who clearly are coachable to a degree because they're here, they're excited, they're willing to listen. They don't have this sort of, they're not deafened by the clatter of their own championship rings on their fingers. Like that's not stopping them listening, which I worry about, man. I really do. Like, don't get me wrong. Being a great player, being brilliant, being Michael Jordan is one thing, but like you had to get to that point. You have to become that Michael Jordan. Like Krim is for me the guy with me where I'm like, Ray is probably a good coach to have because he definitely knows what he's talking about and he can speak really authoritatively. And I reckon they have a good relationship. Don't know anything about him personally. That's just a surface level take. I reckon Krim goes, Ray, I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And Ray goes, let me think about it. Let's do this instead. And I reckon they get to a consensus. And maybe that's where you go from there. I don't think a lot of other teams do that. I really don't, man. I think there's a lot of coaches out there who have got the toughest job in the world. And I go back to the basketball analogy now where I'm like, COD is almost perfectly like the NBA, right? The CDL is the NBA. College basketball is challengers. They're not making, well, they are making money, which is actually great. They're not necessarily having their rights stolen from them like college basketball players are, but like there is a breeding ground for like amazing talent there. And we've seen a taste of it this year, which is really cool. We saw a taste of it with Drowser Hollow, Mac Melts, Awakening, like 4 players who everyone remembers. They truly remember them because like they came out of nowhere and they made a massive difference for their team. I can't think of any other amateurs throughout the year that did it or even did anything of any note outside of like the guys on Team War and everything, or like Singularity every now and then. Like I just don't remember those guys. But the guys who came up to the Pro League and truly turned heads, the coachable ones, Bryce. I think you're really onto something there, man. And
Well,
I just think
it's interesting. You want to hit a point there, Miles, right? And it's just a theory I have. Because you said, take Shotzi and Illy, right, come in as rookies. Think about who they're with, right? And think about last year, it was Simp.
Yeah, man.
All right?
100%.
I come through. And because you walk into that scenario as a person, right? You are brand new and you're like, holy shit, I'm in the league. This is the big leagues. And as confident as you are, right? You sit down in a meeting, right? Pretend you're Shotzi. And even though you're a Halo World Champion, right? You've done it. You've been a champion. You're sitting down next to Crim and Clay. There's no, like, unless you are the most egotistical, confident person in the world, there's no way you're going to sit there and talk shit to them when you first join that team. You're just going to go, yes, sir, that's fine. And for Crim and Clay, that's probably great. Because they're sitting there going, well, we've got to keep up with these ridiculously talented players, but I can help push them where I want them to go because I know how to play this game. Same with Ray.
Yeah, I know how to win. I know exactly what we need to do to win. Mate, it's so interesting. Like, I've got two funny little stories about this one, where the first one that comes to mind was, I think it was, oh man, I'm trying to remember what bar we were in. It was one of the champs. I think it was World War II. What was the year when Slasher was on Envy and he had like, Hook was there. He had another youngster. Like, it was a squad that like, oh man, I can't remember now. It was like Slasher and these like young warriors. Hoot was definitely on that roster. I might have to look it up because it's pretty important. But like, I think it was Envy.
I think you're right.
Anyway, the point was like, I think it was the World War II team.
Yeah,
and everyone looked to this. Years. They looked to this squad and they were like, "Yo, they're going to be incredible." Slash Attempt Classic, I think it was that. But they ended up having a really, really, really bad season. But we were still looking at that squad, going like, they're good. And again, they didn't survive the year. But I remember Slasher at a bar somewhere, one of the events, he turned to me and I was like, dude, you got a good roster here, man. It's like, what's going on? He was like, I just need them to fucking listen to me. And he said something to that. I mean, we were all pretty drunk. He said something to that extent. He was like, they're really good players. I just need them to listen to what I'm saying. I just need them to hear me out. And I was like, that's so interesting, because I would have imagined that squad would have been a little bit more coachable, like based on the age of those players and like the characters in that team. But that is the same notion of like, listen to that one brain. You got to have that single focal point, because otherwise communication gets crossed, everything gets messy. The other example of that I've got is Florida Mutineers this year. When they turned their season around, I got to spend a lot more time with them, talking to them on various podcasts and whatnot like that. And obviously, Ogre 2 was the GM, and he was helping call some of the shots. Of course, Ricky Aturi, their coach, did a really good job. And I was talking to Skies about this one. I was playing Warzone with Skies, and I was like, dude, what is it like to have Ogre 2 as a GM? And he was like, I had to Google him. I had no idea. he's like, he just seemed like a cool guy. He seemed super smart, but I didn't know. And then it's like, I Googled him and I was like, shit, dude, this guy is legit. I was like, yeah, man, of course. So like, he looked into it and he heard him out. And he was like, I was listening anyway, because he seemed like a really smart guy. Yeah. But in the back of his mind, he was like, who the fuck's this dude? Who is this guy telling me what to do? Yeah. That is so important, man. It's so important. It's
so funny you mentioned that, Miles, because I brought this up actually a couple of weeks back, and said, someone said they don't think Ogre 2 is effective. I was like, are you serious? I was
fucking kidding me?
I was like, come on, man. Like, that level of intelligence and knowing and being in that situation. Yeah. Like, it's not an accident these people know what they're doing.
No, it's not. Talk to him for 5 minutes about anything. You go, this dude gets it.
Yeah.
Anything.
But that's the thing. Like, I wonder when we're going to see more of that, because I don't think every team obviously doesn't have an Ogre 2. Every team doesn't have a Rambo Ray. Every team doesn't have that ability to mold these players. And some of them, as much as I don't want to say it, are never going to be in that position. And I think they're going to start being found out more and more. And people are going to go, we could have you, but the truth of the situation is I'd rather have a team that wants to win. And, everyone pays lip service saying they want to win, but some people don't really want to win. Some people want to just do well enough to get their fucking paycheck. And
exactly. That's a big worry for me as well. Sorry to cut you off there. The paycheck's a big worry for you, man. Like, I think for a lot of these players, the true glory of the win isn't what drives them anymore. I think a lot of players are like, I just want to get the bag, man. I just want to get my big paycheck. I'm a pro card player. I've done my time. I just want to get $200,000 a year and just play COD all day, and like, oh yeah, it's going to be lit. No, I don't think enough. I don't know, but I don't think there are enough players out there who are like, I will give my life, my heart, my soul, anything it takes to get that win. Like, I don't know. There are some players that clearly have it, and you can see it on their faces when they lose. You
Yeah.
can see it in their gameplay. Like, they are driving beyond the fucking boundaries of what they are humanly capable of to try to pull out the dub. Like, there is a state of mind that some of those guys have, and there are others that just don't. And like, I don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying like the quiet guy on Twitter who doesn't tweet, he doesn't want to be a champion. Like, you can't. That's not what I'm saying. But I just feel like there are too many players like who have sort of, I don't want to say like, I'm not sure if I'm spinning a room here. This is all theory craft, but like, there are too many dudes like that who have kind of polluted what is a really good bunch of apples. I think they're almost getting.
No. So here's something.
I don't think enough of them want it. Truly want it. The win.
And what's even rarer is something we were just talking about, is saying, "Oh, I want to win. It's burning with me," but then having the sense to realize that you have to also have your teammates with you. Because some of them go, "Oh, I want to win so much, and this guy's shit, and I fucking hate him," and they'll go and they'll slaughter him online, and they'll talk shit, and they won't want to play with him, and they'll sit in the team meetings all huffy and, "I'm doing my job, and all I want to do is win," without realizing, going, well, if you really wanted to win that much, you've got to understand that the rest of your team are also there with you, and they're never going to improve if you just. People get defensive when you say bad things to them. Like I said, I give players a lot of credit because it's, especially now, it's not easy to be an 18-year-old, get pulled into a league, get paid 200k, and have perspective. Like, it's just not.
No way, man.
Like,
dude, if you gave me 200k at 20 years old to just play, I'd probably be dead now. Like, I honestly would. I don't know, man. I don't think I'd be able to keep myself together, because I'd be like, I'm set almost this year. Like, I've made 200k in a year and I didn't win shit. This is dope. This is the good life. Yeah, there's pressure and all that stuff, but like, bro, I'm sweet. I'm sending money home to my fam, like whatever. Like, why do I need to win? Do you know what I mean? What is actually driving me? Krim brought this up when he talked on the podcast. He talked about having a day job and what it was like to he was working like a sporting goods store, and he was folding the goggles, the ski goggles, and he was just like, I've got to do this 900 times a day. I don't want to do this. Once he got the opportunity to get out, he ran for it, and he's done everything in his power to not let that happen again. I think a lot of dudes don't have that, man. And there's guys who there've been teenage players who have gone from like GBs or whatever, like running pockets, making cash from other players, and that's been their day jobs, and that's been what they do. They have no idea what the real world is like and how hard it can be and how good they've got it. And this is, but you can say the same thing for any professional athlete. Like, imagine, but I think the deal with other professional leagues is, imagine in the Premier League, someone decides like, I'm not really feeling it today. I might not show up to practice, or I'm not really giving it my all today. They're like, right, well, you're out, man, mate. You're not getting your £200,000 a week. Fuck off. And that would be that. That would be that.
That's the thing. So, this 45 players drop, because we've gone slightly off tangent here talking about this sort of stuff. One of the key, because I made a video about this and I forgot one of the points, but I said, there are several key reasons why this has happened. One, I thought everyone was overpaid. Two, which a pro player slid in my DMs and reminded me of this fact, which pissed me off because I've forgotten it. The expansion potential for next year means that a 1+1 wouldn't have covered it, so there wouldn't have been a buyout for those teams who maybe wanted to grab a more expensive player. And the third one, and this is the one that players need to understand doesn't come from a place of hatred, is that you probably aren't worth the money you were paid. No. Period. You just aren't worth it. If you're an average player, if you're an average player in this league, there are now 45 people out of work they can replace you with. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's a race 100%. To the bottom. So you, unfortunately, if you haven't done a lot of media, or you haven't done a big brand, or you aren't the face of the franchise, and you've had an average year, and if your attitude isn't T1, or they haven't got any one of a million reasons to keep you, then get the fuck out. As far as I'm concerned, I've got 45 other people I could try. Right? Yeah. Especially if we haven't win shit this year, get out.
Yeah. And I think we are going to see a lot of that, man. I think we're going to see a lot of that. And I'm glad, if anything. Like, I don't want a league of mediocrity. I want every single player on every single team to be a psycho who is gunning for that win no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that will truly raise the competition. That will truly raise the bar of everyone. That will raise the quality of the league. That that makes the viewership more interesting. Like, everything about this. Like, I don't know, but I like the idea that where we're going now is like, we're trimming the fat, man. We're trimming the fat in a really positive way. And I know it sucks for those individuals, and I know that some people are going to get hard done by. I know that some of the sort of more difficult characters aren't going to get teams just because it's just what it is, and there's limited spots now, and it is the friend zone is very real. But I just think in the long run, it's going to be good. And again, one major change I want to see coming out of all of this is an attitude towards players. Like if someone is not performing, if someone is rocking up late, if someone is pulling the rest of the squad down, if someone is causing issues, hit the fucking pine so hard and slap them with a fine, give them a different salary, whatever, man. Like if they are not performing, we ain't got time for this shit. Look at the amount of teams this year that didn't make changes and suffered as a result of it when they could have made a change or when they had the opportunity to bring somebody in off the bench. Get out. Like, we ain't got time for this shit. The year will be over before we know it. And if by some magical moment we go back to LAN because COVID does one, then it's even more important. Then, we're back in person. Your spot's even more at risk because now you have to deliver there once again. And we want to put on a real show, man. We want to put the shit on for the world. If you're not performing, piss off. And I think that I want that to be the case now, man. I want this to be a tighter ship across the board.
Yeah, it goes for the coaching staff as well, right? Like, I think as far as I can see, every year, basically every coach has been re-signed, which blew my freaking mind. Until I remember.
One more thing on that, mate. One more thing on that. I think there's a lot of players that don't really understand how hard it is to coach someone, and they just sort of go, "I can do it. I'll do it. Sure, I know all about this 100%. Shit." But you don't know anything about how to manage your personality. You don't know anything about social skills. You don't know anything about like true sports psychology. This shit is hard. If you can go to university about it, you can't just dive in and have a fucking go.
Miles,
I worry about that, man.
I love you so much because that was my next point.
Coaching
is not just knowing the game, especially because the game changes every year. I'm afraid to tell you this, but it changes every year, so we have to redo our knowledge every year. Coaching isn't about if you've won a championship, you could still be a shit coach. If you are one of the greatest players of all time, you could still be a shit coach.
Shit coach.
Coaching is player management. It is making sure to get these people scheduled to get them to make them a better player at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
Just knowing shit is not good enough.
No, man. You have to identify a person's strengths and weaknesses outside of the game. You have to be able to go, like, I mean, just watch The Last Dance and see what they did. When Rodman wasn't performing, what did they do? They let him have 48 hours in Vegas. He took 78 or whatever. But like when he got back in on the court, it was as if nothing had changed because they knew that was a part of his personality. He needed that. You have to identify that. And if you can't identify that in a person, you can't just be like, I need you just keep pushing B, bro. Get the trades, bro. Just, like, no, dude, there's so much more to this. It's so much more. And it's so much more important. I had another point. I was going to go on a rant there. Like, it's one of those jobs. This is not one of those jobs that you should just jump into with no experience. Like, there are a few things you can do. You can, dare I say it, you can maybe lifeguard a swimming pool because you just have to not let people drown. Seems pretty straightforward. You can hand out flyers, and clearly you can be the president of the United States. No prior experience required. Fuck it. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, just get involved. Right.
And I'm sure there are some coaches out there saying this is bullshit, whatever. But there are, I've said this before, and this is the same thing with analysts. Right? We said this you don't have to be an ex-pro player to be a good analyst. You just have to know how to break shit down and put it forward. Yeah. And it's kind of the same as coaching. It's knowing how to talk to people and to coach. And I'm sure if you ask any sports coaches, it's very much the same thing. But it's mad to me. It is insane to me, like, that no coach has been made redundant until I realised that there really isn't that many options out there. There just isn't.
No, there's not.
We talk about it, there just isn't that many options. Like, who are they going to take? There isn't anybody. And that's why I said I don't blame coaches. It's because it's a difficult job to do because you don't know what the players let them do. So I suspect there are more than one things in the franchise at the moment where players are too valuable for a coach to remove. And they can't do anything about it. But the franchise will be like, we're not letting this asset sit on the bench. And you're like, well, I need to. He's an asshole. But he's performing well. Yeah. But he's an asshole. I need to bench him. And they're like, well, you can't bench him. And they're like, well, what the fuck do I do then? You know? It's
hard, man.
Oh, it's horrific.
But there's more. I mean, I just keep going back to it. There was Mia Stelberg. I said to Google her name. She was the Astralis. She's a sports psychologist that Astralis, the CS:GO team, hired. She transformed their entire squad. She transformed the way they approach everything. And it's like, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? What kind of routine have you got? And like the amount of work, and obviously the cost she had. She went and joined OG. She went, she was with that team for like the international 19 or 9 or whatever. And they won because you turn gamers into professionals and like a proper athlete. Yeah, like genuinely a proper athlete. And like that, I don't think that like your mate, the guy you teamed with for that LAN once. No, I don't think that's the case. Don't get me wrong. I know those people can learn, and I know that there are a lot of soft skills that you will have as a player and as a person. Yeah. You'll know players very well. I don't know. That's a part of this whole thing. Like, we're leveling up the scene. And if we're going to level this shit up, take this more seriously, it has to happen at every single rung of the ladder.
Yeah, it's not easy because you have to do like a tiny bit at a time. But no, I couldn't agree with you more, Miles. It's something we're banging on about. It's like, and we're getting off a tangent again. We need to cover Cold War in a minute.
What?
Yeah. So this is something I want to talk about because I've said this before, and funny enough, like one of the worst things that I ever got flack for, right, while casting, was back in 2013, right, where I'd seen a coach just crack down, so just in a team, crack down at McDonald's as they walked onto main stage. And I saw it as a caster, because I was obviously behind the scenes. And I'm just like, and I brought it up to the caster, went, well, they might be a little bit lethargic since I just saw them wolf down some Big Macs.
Swallowed a Big Mac.
Yeah, and obviously the fans went, oh, that doesn't mean anything, it's bullshit, right? I'm sitting there going, no, it does. It does. Like, unfortunately, in Call of Duty at the moment, some of these teams have to be taught how to be adults. And go, you know, like reciprocity, right? Take the reciprocity team. Love those guys. Couldn't love that team more for its content, for everything. But when I found out they just basically never cooked in that team house and just ordered out every day for every meal, I honestly just wanted to strangle the fucking lot of them. I was just sitting there going, "What are you doing? Like, what? How is that a way to live for a year?" I was like, I don't even take the financial side out of it, which would have cost them an absolute shit ton. I was like, how is that a way to live? Like the most unstructured, ridiculous way of living that anyone has ever. Just order out every meal, even if you have the money. That's you know, somebody cook. Just hire a personal chef for fuck's sake. There's 7 of you or whatever it is.
You might have saved the money on takeaway and delivery fees and tipping and all that if you did have a professional chef. But it's funny, look back to the first event. I want to say the first event, maybe it was London. There was some content pre-event rather, where Shotzi was shown to not know how to use a knife and fork at the same time. And Clayster and Crim were just like, what? You know, and that's part of it, man. That's part of like growing up and being an adult. Like, I know there's all these jokes about like players like I've never done laundry before or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's fine, but like you just get on with it, man. Like you need that. That's a form of coaching, I suppose. And it's very hard, mate. There's no right answer here. It takes time, effort, and money and attention to detail to really make a difference there. But it's tough. Yeah. It's very tough.
I know it's
don't envy anyone in that position. It's fucking hard work.
That's another problem with it. Like if you're a coach now, there are some players you will have to basically be an adult to and say, yo, have you even done your laundry this fucking? You can't just sit there in your pants stinking for 4 days on the end, man. Like for fuck's sake. Like first of all, it's disgusting, and second of all, there's no way you're in peak performance if you haven't showered in 3 days. Now I'm not saying any pro players do this, but like there are some of them just missing basic life skills because they've moved now to play.
Yeah, if you can smell yourself while rotating, you've done a bad job. Right? But it's funny, man. There was another example of this. God, I'm enjoying the rant, but yeah, man, it taking care of the players, making sure they're on decent sleep schedules. I think that's one of the biggest ones. Player sleep schedules. Dudes who are going to bed at 9 a.m. the next day to get up for scrims for 3 p.m. You're not in a good state, dude. You're not in a good state. You haven't moved your body. You haven't eaten a vegetable. You've just been smashing McDonald's and drinking energy drinks. Like you're not in a good way.
That should come under the coaching thing, though. Like taking care of yourself outside the game. Like that's like I'd be pissed if I was a coach and I found out a player had done that. I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Because there's no way you're turning up to this first scrim awake. And if you don't turn up to your scrims, like it's fine. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the moment, there's still a problem in Call of Duty of people actually turning up to their fucking scrims on time. But if you're not turning up ready, like, and I don't mean just your controller's plugged in, you've stuck your headset on. I mean that you are in that mental space, ready to play, full throttle from the off. I don't want to hear you need 2-3 fucking maps to get into the mine zone because then we've just wasted 35 minutes of everyone's time. Like you should be there.
And now we're all pissed. Yeah. You've just put oil in the water, man. Like you've messed up the solution, and now this is a bad day of practice already. Yeah. Totally, mate. It's hard. It's really hard. What about Cold War?
Still Cold War. This was not supposed to be a Rostermania rant, right? Cold War. So we obviously
it was good though, mate. It was good. It was good. Yeah. It was real good.
I feel like this is what happens at events. We end up talking about like this shit for hours. I miss you so much, man.
You too, man. You too. Oh, that's another one. With during COVID, it's so hard to check in on players because you can't go near them. You're like, "How you doing?" And they're on the phone like, "Yeah, I'm great." I'm like, "Are you in your pants? Do you smell of shit?" And they're like, "No, no." Of course they don't. You can't go over there and make sure.
I'm sure there was more than one player cam during the year where the players just moved their trash off their desk.
Fucking hell.
Just woof. That's out of camera shot now. That'll do.
Jesus.
Anyway, Cold War. So obviously the mock player reveal has now come and gone. Interesting way to reveal, by the way. 3 hours of it. We never normally get to see that much of just streamers playing it everywhere.
every mode. We saw loads. None of this like, oh, here's a map. They were like, fuck it, go for it. Alpha's ready, go for it.
Here's a bunch of terrible people playing this game. No, which has happened before.
Yeah, it has.
This is like you get to see like all different skill levels. Like there were pro players in there just cracking skulls. There were influencers. There were big streamers. And it was interesting to watch like all of it gone down. I mean, the biggest part two biggest takeaway. First biggest takeaway was Namus' jacket, unbelievable.
The wheeler dealer.
The wheeler dealer.
The wheeler dealer.
Honestly,
he can get you anything you want.
Does look like he comes straight out of Peckham, doesn't he? That is that.
Somebody said, "Hey, aren't you the gunsmith from Cold War?" I was like, "Bro, I loved it, man. I loved it. Loved it." Wheeler dealer.
The other thing is like we obviously, and this is something that you'll know as well as most people. I find it very difficult to judge a game until I get hands on because people always look at the recoil, and recoil never looks the same. Although I've been hearing from players, recoil was quite low this year. TTK is a little bit higher, which I'm always happy about. And people saying, "Oh, sliding's already been changed." I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways is that there's already been a tweet from a developer going, "Oh, by the way, we've changed sliding," and I'm like, "We're in for a good year."
But yeah, I think the not even just the hands-on of the devs, but like I just think like a lot of the stuff, and this is from internal conversations that we've had with specifically Beanox. Beanox are the guys who basically do the PC side of it. There's a lot of Battle.net integration there, but they also do like the Codcast Revelation, shit like that.
Yeah.
And we had like a full day meeting. I can say all this. I didn't sign a fucking thing. This is just like what we do at work. And we spent a full day talking to them about like redesigning Codcaster, redesigning what is important to give a viewer, so that they are informed, and that's where we got to with the Modern Warfare Codcaster interface, which was pretty clean. It gave us everything we needed. We could make tweaks on the fly. And again, this is because the Observer team are basically on the phone with Beanox all the time. Like if there's a problem, like we can't read the scoreboard because OGLA's white is just the same as the font, and it's just a little distracting and it looks bad on mobile. Next event is changed, that's really cool. But I think like there's a lot of stuff that we had passed on feedback wise at the beginning of MW that couldn't quite make it until this year. Little things like when you play Hardpoint now, and this is going to be the same in Codcast, this is the same in the game, you currently only see the Hardpoint, and when it rotates, it rotates. In this next game and in Codcaster, there is an icon on the map and in the user interface that says next. Shows you as the user, as the player, and as the viewer where we're going to after this. And that for me is so big. Like, there's a lot of people like, oh, it's really newbie. Fuck off.
See, that's an interesting one because so I've always said, and there's always been this argument, right? And I've got in trouble for it before because as I sometimes express myself in professional meetings, not quite as nicely as some other people, because I don't want to just sit there and lie.
Yep.
There's always been this thing about bringing more casuals to Call of Duty, and there are two methods that I've seen in businesses I've worked with as well, where they've gone, right, well, why don't we just like shove everybody in and hope some stick? And I'm like, that's a terrible fucking way to do it because you don't get the people you want, you just get idiots, and even then, it doesn't really work. I said, why not just make something as great as possible, and then just have easy ways for them to get to competitive? Because competitive, here's the thing that everybody just needs reminding: competitive is fucking great.
Yeah,
it's just fucking great. That's why we play it, because it's great. We don't play it because we're pretending to be elite. We're just, a lot of us play it because it's more entertaining than normal Call of Duty, and it gets rid of a lot of the stuff we don't like. Right? Competitive is great. So just let people see how great it is. The hardpoint change you just spoke about is great because it doesn't affect the competitive scene in any way because, let's face it, if you're not rotating in the last COD by 20, 30 seconds anyway, you've probably fucked it up. But if you're a new player and you're playing linear competitive hardpoint for the first time, not knowing where the next hardpoint is means you're going to get smashed. But if you get 10 seconds to go, oh, right, we're going over there. Cool, because I play with some casuals, some of my cousin's friends, and they're supposed to be pretty decent pub stoppers. Terrible players, by the way. So I'm just shitting on them as a below average comp player. But they're like, I was like, let's go play hardpoint. And like, oh, I've never played it before. And then they're running around last. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, that is a change, a good, positive, sensible change. Help competitive attract casuals. Not changing the number of players, not doing, not restricting. It's something that is a quality of life change that doesn't make anything bad. That's what I love about this. It's what I love about fucking Vonderhaar and Treyarch. And I think they're even more. They're leaning into it now. It's become a self-sustaining meme. There was, I think it was either Ghost. What come before Black Ops 3? I've gone completely blank. What was the year before Black Ops 3?
It was
Was
an
it AW?
AW.
I think it was AW.
AW.
So
Yeah.
I saw Vonderhaar at the AW champs, right? Speaking to him outside on the car park deck by the restaurant sort of thing. You have to understand if you're in a champ. And I said, "Hey man, what is is Black Ops 3 good next year?" He looked at me and he went, "Dude, I invented this competitive shit. What do you think?" And I was like, "You're fucking right.
Good.
You're fucking right. We're gonna be good." And XP was amazing. And it was great. Like it's one of these things. Like he gets it, and he gets it more and more. And obviously, there's always going to be conflict, right? There'll be shit in Cold War that the competitive scene will be like, "Oh, maybe we can change." We're like, "But we've got so much good stuff." Like,
So much good stuff.
Like theater coming back doesn't sound like it's a competitive thing, but my god, it is. We don't have to
right on. But I'm even in the point where like a lot of people complaining about kill streaks or score streaks now maintaining or persisting through death, and it's an accumulative score that stays with you, and it's not super easy to get. I'm like, okay, cool. So instead of in this game when Modern Warfare was like 3 kills gets you a UAV, 5 kills gets you whatever, blah 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 blah. Now it's like the score streak is much more like a payload ability, or let's say like a specialist ability, than it is a streak. It's something that you could drop on the map whenever you want, but it's something that you have to build up to. It's something that you're rewarded for with good gameplay. Like, and again, we saw in the beta, it's not like you're just getting it because like little Timmy, and let's face it, Timmy the Tatman wasn't running around with a chopper gunner. Who had the chopper gunners in the beta? The Scumps, the Zoomers, the good players, right? Teep, the guys who were slaying. So like immediately off that face value, I'm like, cool, man. If Tim the Tatman can't run around and do that, then fine. Don't get me wrong. I loved him. He's hilarious. Him raging at Scum killing him was hysterical. But like, just look at it from a competitive standpoint there. We're like, cool. I'm not going to jump into a pub, get slapped around and be like, check this shit out and throw a chopper gunner down. No, I have to earn that shit. So again, I think there's a lot of very, very cool changes in this game that I'm excited about. I'm excited to see control back. Dom can fuck off. I'm very excited.
Dom's so bad.
Truly, truly excited. Dom is so hard to watch, man. And yeah, we got better at it towards the end, but it's so hard to watch. It's hard to tell a story. Don't love it. Control is probably my favorite game type in Call of Duty. I'm going to say it. Yeah. I loved it in BO4, man. I loved it, and I think it's going to be great in this one. I just hope that I hope that we, as a league, like again, I don't know too much about the behind scenes here, but like I hope we lean into all the cool shit that Treyarch are putting into this game, and we can make something really great with it. Really, really great with it.
That's a funny thing you mentioned about going to Control, because I saw somebody complaining about it. It's like, oh, can't we have CTF or Dom? I'm like, look, trust me, I've been around every competitive game mode there can be in Call of Duty history, right? CTF, right? Just to be clear, only works if the map design and the spawn manipulation allow it. That hasn't happened in about 6 years for it to be the perfect game mode. And there is an argument, and it's an industry argument, and it's from like developers and publishers or whatever. And I've heard it so many times, I fucking hate it. It's, oh, but what if it gets like really tense towards the end? What if X happens? It'll be a great standoff, like with Dom. Oh, what if they have to trip cap to get the win? I went, but that may be like 1 game out of 100. Please don't base a competitive mode of what could happen in 1 mode out of 100, because then we get shit like Blitz. Because everyone goes, oh, how tense is it when it's all at the end? I went, yeah, but the first 8 minutes of the game were dog shit. Yeah, just boring.
Same with Dom. It's the same with Dom. Yeah. It's like, cool. So what? You just got shot at each other and for no like discernible reason, without being a savant and knowing everything inside out. And then at the end, sure, it's tense. Like, hey, it's just tough, man. But Control is like, you watch those numbers. There is cause and effect for literally everything a player does. It's a good game mode. It's a really good game mode. Hardpoint's tough to follow at times. Without, I remember when I first joined the scene. That didn't make it easier. But when I first joined the scene, I was like, oh, it's like King of the Hill. And even then, I was like, this is tough to follow, man. I remember explaining it to people who I worked with outside of esports. And they were like, this is really difficult to watch. Without you telling me exactly what's happening, even listening to the commentators, I'm struggling here. So I was like, cool, that's the quality of life change that we've got in this game that's going to really help. But in general, like game modes have got to be easy to watch. Search and Destroy, amazing. Control, a really nice mix between both Search and Hardpoint. I think we're in a really good spot for the year.
Yeah.
But the game, man, I like the look of it. I think it looks good as well. Like, that's another cool thing about Treyarch games. Time and time again, the color palette's nice. Player models look really good. Like, it just looks like a good game. It just looks good.
I think there's an interesting divide right now on the Cold War front because I do a really stupid thing, Miles, and I'm sad to admit this, but I do go on some of the other COD Reddits, the casual COD Reddits, occasionally just to see what the hot takes of the game are, which is always fun. Here's how bad Modern Warfare got me last year, by the way, tangent, but still, this is how pissed off I was with the Modern Warfare subreddit at the start of the year.
Here we go.
I started writing a diss track. I started writing a diss track
like a Bryce rap?
No, it was based on Stormzy's Wily Flow, and I was rewriting the lyrics to call it Modern Warfare Wildly Slow because of how much that subreddit pissed me off.
You smart. I like that.
It was all right, but I obviously am not a rapper, and that's basically where it fell down. I was sitting there going, I'm not sure I can put this down. But like, there's an argument at the moment about the looks of Cold War versus Modern Warfare, and people are going, "Oh, gunplay." Someone actually said gunplay, and the mechanics don't matter as much as how it looks. And I honestly wanted to reach through the screen and strangle that person from where they were sitting, because Modern Warfare is a very pretty game, very pretty game. But the truth is, if you're a comp player, all that shit's a blur most of the time. You're looking for movement, you're looking for other bits, pre-aiming stuff. Having a pretty game is great. I would prefer to have a spawn system that is intuitive so people can understand it very easily. I would prefer to have uncluttered parts of the map so I can see and figure shit out in that competitive way, right? Like, that's something I've always loved. I've always said, Call of Duty I always call it the car sprinkle. I always imagine that developers go, right, there's our map, fantastic. And then someone just comes in and just throws cars out and go, right, there's some cars now. Just in the places to explode. Just random places. There we go. There's our cars.
It's not even cover. It's not. Just let's put the car here. Oh, somebody could jump off of this car into a place we didn't realize.
Yeah.
A car there. You get a car. Everyone gets a car. I know what you mean, man. Like the sprinkle is there. And I think looking back at like best competitive shooters of all time, Halo Combat Evolved.
Yeah.
Like
CS.
We're talking bland. We're talking flat, minimal textures. The gameplay really ran the whole show there. That's what we got. That's really what we got.
Because the rest of it isn't, and sounds really weird, but the rest of it isn't as important as what you are doing and executing. I don't.
No.
But bear in mind, right? Like, you won't remember, and this is you won't remember the exact details on every map. It would just go into like colors and shapes after you've stopped playing it. Like, you couldn't, unless you've got an eidetic memory or a photographic memory, you aren't going to be able to draw that accurately. What you will, if I asked you to draw it, Miles, and paint it in, you wouldn't be giving me all the details. You'd be just going, oh, fuck it, there's a square here and a doorway, and then you could go, and you would think about that map, how you navigate it. You think about maps of how you navigate them and sight lines. You don't go, oh yeah, there was a really cool bit of mechanical kit on the wall. I enjoy looking at that while everything else is going on. And it goes for more.
I know what you mean, but I can still go, all right, well, Tire Shop in Modern Warfare, on the second floor of Tire Shop, on the bench towards the left-hand side of the room, facing the north of the map, there was a telephone, some C4, and there was a plan of Piccadilly Circus. Obviously, they blow it up at the start of the campaign. That was all there, and I remember seeing all that because I am that weird. But that shit does not matter. That does not make... And if anything, Modern Warfare was a real victim of that. That shit actually got in the way of the game, which, for me, is a cardinal sin. If there are things in the map that can randomly blow up, that can affect the player of no fault of their own, like environmental hazards that are seemingly random and tiny. Like, if my bullet's going to get interrupted by a plastic bottle on the table and not hit the opponent, cost me a 1v1 gunfight, shit, they got rotation. Shit, they got spawns. I'm like, lads, don't blame me. Blame the bottle of Coke. That's cardinal sin for me, man. Again, look at Valorant. Squeaky clean, mate. There's minimal textures on that map. The pretty shit is in the background. That, for me, is like... The gameplay has to come first. Don't get me wrong. I want the maps to be cool and memorable, but like the memories come from the gameplay, not from, do you remember that painting of Pablo Escobar in a Hawaiian shirt wearing some Astros in the back of Hacienda that we never saw, that doesn't exist? No, like the gameplay's got to come first, man.
Yeah, and I think Cold War looked great in that regard. Like, it looked like it's a maps that flow over. I will say, during the reveal, I didn't get to see as many maps as I would like to see that look like they'll be comp maps.
Yeah,
I think some of that's some of that's like difficult to judge until you get in it.
Yeah, I think Moscow. It was a Moscow, Miami. They're the sort of smaller ones we saw. The Dune one, Algiers. I forget where it was.
Yeah,
that one looked the satellite array one that looked a little big.
Yeah.
But who knows, man? Like that was like I don't know. That was I don't know. It's tough. We never get the good maps on multiplayer reveal. No one that never happens ever.
True.
The good maps are in the good maps are in the game. And even if the good maps are in the DLC, we rarely get to see those anyway. But like, yeah, I'm excited. I genuinely am. I think Miami looked quite cool. There's a lot of windows. That was a little thing. I basically watched Priester throughout the entire reveal because I was just like, I find it much easier to learn a game when watching a single POV. Obviously, like, and that was what I did. And because he went through all the guns, he talked a lot. He explained attachments and shit. Love the new gunsmith, by the way. I'd love to see that now being a staple of COD. I think that's really cool. You know, like I think that's I think there's a lot of really cool things, and there's another side point I'd like to go back here about like the direction of Call of Duty for the future, and I think Modern Warfare was the kind of beginning of it. If COD Mobile was the sort of beginning there, but yeah, man, like I can't remember what my point was now, but basically the map design and the way things look so far is cool. Nothing's that complicated, and I don't know. I just worry about the windows on Miami.
It's one of those things. People don't maybe not realize this, and this is maybe an industry thing again. So I've done a lot of these launch games, and I've done all this sort of stuff, and I've consulted in the UK for show runs, and these are like, so I've done consulting on, and I've helped Activision out, at least in the UK side, of what maps we should be looking at, what modes we should be looking at for launches, the launches and the DLCs. So I've done that, and I've had it go all the way up the chain and come back down, which is a massive change, just so we're clear. And like one of the crazy things, I can't remember. I think it was Hijacked, right? I put Hijacked into the rotation of, oh, let's have a look at this map. I've played it before. You know, this would be a great map to showcase the game on. It came back down the chain saying we can't use it, and I can't remember the reason for it. It's like can't use Hijacked, and I'm like, fucking why? And there was something on there that the devs weren't happy with, either texture-wise or FPS or play-wise. It's like the most random thing. So when you think, oh, they've just picked random maps to go in these reveals, it's never random. No. There is a reason you only see some maps, and it may be nothing. Like I never knew what the actual problem with Hijack was because it seemed to play fine when I got into the pre-play stuff that they sent me. So it's just like, I don't know why, but clearly there is something that they have decided that is not to be shown, even though it's going to be one of the most iconic and most popular maps of all time. People know Hijacked and have played the shit out of it because it's a good map, right?
Yeah,
but you won't see that map in the reveal for X reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're building the house while trying to sell it. You know, the back of the house isn't ready. Everyone's like, can we have a look at the pool? Like, no, yeah. But it's in the plans. Yeah, it's hard, man. I think where we're going now with the direction of COD for the future, I think it's in a cool place. We look at like COD Mobile is probably one of the most successful mobile games in history.
Yeah.
And it's basically like Call of Duty's greatest hits. Maps, modes, guns, characters, you name. Right. And I think that is the sort of direction we are now moving with the AAA title release of every COD game. So like Modern Warfare and Warzone has sort of set the sort of like tone for where we'll be forever now in Call of Duty. Because you look at like where Cold War is now, it's like they're not saying it's still within the same like Call of Duty universes, like the multiverse of the Call of Duty world, where like there's a Modern Warfare, the prices, you got your Woods and the Black Ops world or whatever, and then so on and so forth. But I think like the continuation of the Warzone world in Cold War, including all the stuff you bought, the characters you've unlocked, even maybe the map and the story that comes with that shit, that is going to persist now forever. That is going to be linked to your Activision account. That will go with you across Cold War, whatever the hell is next, and whatever the hell Warzone looks like in that version. But that shit will stay with you. And I think that's really cool because for me, that puts us in a situation in the future where maybe we do have like a greatest hits of COD AAA game that just keeps getting updated. And if you want to play the newest campaign, just a DLC, man, you just grab that and that becomes like a game in itself. But I just think that's where we're going in the future. And like, I don't know that. I've no intel. This is coming purely from like, if this is what we're looking with now and going forward, that could be a reality. I just think that's where we're going, man. And I like the looks of Cold War. And if the Warzone integration thing works really well, I'm pumped, mate. I'm pumped and I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm pumped.
I agree. I've always said I think COD needs a more distant kind of transfer of key mechanics. Things like theatre mode.
Yeah.
I never wanted to see theatre mode go away again, even though I know it takes up a lot of room. I love it, and it's always in Black Ops games. There's never in any other games. So I have to, either have to record everything or rely on in-video shadow play and all this other stuff. Yeah, but I agree. I think hopefully it keeps consistent. Warzone going consistent is a great sign, and I think we'll even see more competitive stuff because of that. I think they're going to double down on it this year. They've already done like what I like to call behind the scenes tournaments. Like, Nick Merckx got an Activision partnership. Vicstar got an Activision partnership. They're all about doing these big tournaments, and obviously Activision's putting them prize money up for them because they want it to be popular and people do play it. But let's go into questions from the chat, Mark, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Like I said, I only want to do about an hour-ish. Someone's asking this one. Could you please ask Miles if he agrees with making player salaries public like C9 is doing with their CS teams?
Oh, it's right. The new GM, Henry G, is not wasting any time whatsoever. I do like it, personally. I love the idea that we as viewers or as pundits get to know everything, right? The more knowledge we have as viewers, the power, right? And now for players, knowledge is power, and for orgs. And I just think everyone can just make more informed decisions.
Someone asked me about the drawbacks of it. Someone asked me about the drawbacks of it because I saw someone tweet going, "Oh, why aren't we public with it anyway?" And I'm like, there are several good fucking reasons why we're not public with it. None of them reasons that means I would be against it. I'm still all for it. I'm surprised agents haven't leaked how much they got their players. But here's a few things that people probably don't realise, or probably do realise, but haven't thought about. If you are, say, I don't know, Methods, I think tweeted saying why it's all public. If Methods was being paid $200,000 a year and had a bad event or fucked up, then all the criticism would go towards him going, "You're being paid $200,000 a year, you shitter," or "You're being paid $200,000 a year, $200,000 a year, and this person's only been paid $100,000. Why the hell are you on the team? You're not even worth that." Like, that is a new level of abuse. If everybody knows what everybody's being paid, and then there's the internal side of that same argument. If you're playing with someone who's on less money than you and they think they are better and performing better, they're going to turn around and look at you and going, "You're shit. Like, why are you being paid more than me?" All this internal politics. And I don't think any of those are reasons that we shouldn't have it, but they are reasons to think about. They are certainly something that should happen.
Mate, that could be the same thing for talent. That could be the same thing for the coaches. That could be the same thing. It's not even business. It's just sort of like, it's not misinformation. It's it's an omittance of truth to create a situation where, like, you can come out on top. So, like, there are some players who are seriously benefiting. Again, this is speculative. There are players who are benefiting massively from the fact that, well, so-and-so is getting this much money. Could be a rumor, could be a flat-out lie.
Yeah.
You need to pay me this. If he's getting that, I need to get this. That guy might not be getting anything. That could be Scottie Pippen over there not being paid. That's the truth of the matter. And it's like, and if this were all public, then you could go, well, this guy's got the best stats. He's a great leader. He's good in the interviews. Yeah. He's won all these chips. I think he should be paid a lot of money. Who are you? The guy who hasn't won anything, who is a bit of a twat on Twitter. All you like to do is complain. I don't really want to pay you as much as I pay number one dude. I think that's really, really important.
I think
it's really, really
important. I am fully for player salaries going public because, first of all, you're being paid that much anyway. So you've clearly, at some point, if you're a player, you've clearly gone, yeah, that's how much I'm worth. So you then shouldn't really be allowed to hide and go, "Oh, I don't want people knowing because, they'll talk shit about me." And the other part is, I think it actually empowers the players. Because then they can negotiate in an honest forum. You can't be lowballed if you know what the industry standard is.
Yeah.
I know that
lowballing happens all the time. It happens in our jobs. It happens everywhere, man. And it does mess everything up for everyone. It drives players out. It drives commentators out. You name it. Look at Henry G's post, man. Like, he's really driven. He's leading the forefront here, brother. Like, of exposing how difficult this job can be, and the same rules apply to the players in every regard.
I'll tell this story because I don't know whether or not it'll come out, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So, in terms of what you just said, you are right, it happens in ours. Let me give you an example of a horrible one I heard recently. So, as casters, you can be paid a good amount of money because obviously it's not just the 12 hours of broadcast, it's everything beforehand, the prep, and the time you're not being hired, right? You have to be full-time, but you also have to, you may only work 12 days out of a month. It's a really weird scenario, but you have to be paid extra because of that, and because of the volatility and the want and everything else, right? So, when you get undercut, because it may look like a lot of money, but when you get undercut, so I heard a story that a friend of mine was speaking to me about it. He says, "Oh, I had to reach out to this other caster for freelance work because we needed him to do a show." And I was like, "Oh, okay," because a lot of times we do day rates. You don't really do a half day rate because you're not doing anything else that day. This person was charging by the hour, Miles.
Ooh.
By the hour. And they were charging, I want to say 12 quid an hour to cut. Decent production, decent kind of level stuff, but they didn't have any faith in themselves. They just wanted to get jobs. And I'm like,
bend the
that
knee,
is
mate. Bend the
that
knee.
is like undercutting everybody else. And while take your personal opinions of what people should be paid aside, realize that there is obviously an industry here, and people try to keep it at a reasonable level so people can live. When everybody races to the bottom, nobody wins apart from tournament organisers. And because all the bitching and infighting and undercutting just hurts talent in the long run. Because even if you are trying to get your name out there and trying to get jobs, so you're undercutting like mad, eventually you'll realise, like, shit, I can't really live on this and I want to be paid better, but I don't have a benefit for it. And when I try to put my prices up, well, then you might be the next victim of undercutting. You might be the guy, like, who someone asked to do a 3-hour show and they're going to do it for 30 quid. And you're like, well, kind of going to need like 300.
Yeah, I'm going to need a bit more than that to justify travel. And man, that happens.
And that'll happen with the players. That's going to happen right now with the players, by the way. That is going to happen.
There was a deleted tweet from Wuskinz where he tweeted at Minnesota. It was like, I'll sign for free. Let's just do this. As a way to be like to undercut maybe assault as like a way to tell as the way to get him back. The tweet got deleted. It's on Reddit, whatever. I don't know the motive behind that, but it's gonna happen at some point. Someone's gonna be like, I need to play. I need to stay relevant. I need to keep my stock up. I'm willing to take a massive cut as a decent player in order to just get on a roster.
Yeah, players did that this year.
Hunger Games begin.
Players did that this year. There are players who did that this year who signed up. Admittedly, slightly different. They signed a slightly less deal because they wanted to play. But it's mad about the fact that this is. I think player salaries coming out is a great idea. I can do it. Just fucking do it. Just get it in the open. Be honest with everything. It's not going to hurt you. It isn't going to hurt you in the long run. Yeah.
Change the world for the benefit of all of us.
Last question. Last question, and I'll let you go, Miles. Any word on an anti-cheat for Warzone? Worried about that with the carryover? I think there's already an anti-cheat in Warzone, but it's just.
Is there?
I
don't know.
Here's my understanding of it. Right? People don't understand like. And I'm not making excuses for Warzone. I don't care. I got killed by a hacker yesterday. Hacking and an anti-cheat is not just, we'll put an anti-cheat in, we fixed it all, right? That's not how it works. How it works is there is a continuous arms race from, right, we've patched that exploitation, and then the hackers go, right, well, we found a way around that exploitation, then they patch it again, find a way around again, and it hammers on over and over again. And the reason it looks like it's worse in Warzone than something else is because Warzone is free. That's it. Yeah. You don't have to. There is no monetary penalty against it.
No, you don't burn your copy of the game. You don't. They don't strike you. They still put the IP or hardware bans. That'd be ideal, but they don't do that. It's hard to do that. I don't think there is anything that can or will be happening except for the developers have to identify the exploits. And if anyone who's ever looked into hacking, like I came from IT. I was a systems administrator for like 7 years. We freak out when every now and then you get an email like, boys, there's a certain version of Adobe, Flash player that has a serious exploit in it. We got to patch that shit now, otherwise the Russians are coming. That's basically like what you have to do, and you have to. It's always like a bizarre backdoor way in. It's like it could be your mouse driver that allows you to get into Warzone freely, or you've got a controller, and that fact that you run a controller might be the way in. And like the game, you trick the game into thinking the controller is a controller, and really it's an evil device that's hacking the game and allowing you to shoot noobs through walls. It's very difficult to do this shit, and I really sincerely hope that going forward we can find a fix. I say we, but they can find
me
a
and
fix.
Miles are on it.
We're on it. I got tweets all the time. Fix your game. Sure.
That's the best one when you get that as a caster. Okay. Why are you fixing the game? I don't fucking know.
Start the game. Yeah. We'll stop talking. Stop. Okay.
Oh, yeah, because trust me, what we want to do as casters is sit there waffling shit. Oh, it's warm, and we've got the lights in our eye. Trust me, my favourite time of casting is when the camera comes off me, and then I can just talk and relax and talk about the game.
I can let my gut go. That's my favourite part.
Yeah, me too. I can finally...
This little full out...
I can sit down during S&Ds. That's my one.
I think that's the problem. I don't think there'll be a fix anytime soon, but I know that this is... it has to be continuous, but I know there's been a lot of back and forth, and I just know this is a serious problem. And obviously the fact that like massive streamers are tweeting about it every single time, Ninja says this game XYZ or Shroud or Tim Tatman, any of them, they hear it, and whether they can do something about it or not, that's that.
Yeah, it really is. All right, well, I think that will wrap this one up very nicely. Thank you so much, Miles, for joining me. I appreciate you coming on, man, and I hope in the off season you've got lots of free time, because I'll certainly be asking you back.
All right on, mate. We got to carry on that chat about how to be a professional coach and how to manage personalities and whatnot.
Oh,
truly, because that there is 9 hours in that.
Yeah.
What do you
really
do
is.
if they start crying? What do you do if they're angry at another player for something that player said? What do you?
I was tempted to see if I get together like a coaches panel and just grill them all. But I don't know whether or not they would be entirely enthused about that. If you know what I mean, like.
No. I think you poke a lot of holes there in
I would poke a
game
lot of
plans,
holes. I would poke a lot of holes. Like I said, I consider some of the coaches right this. No idea if they're good or not. They could be terrible. Could be shocking.
Look, the way I look at it, last point on this, if Teep had to retire, it's fucking hard, all right? It's hard. If Teep couldn't wrangle those boys, it's not an easy job.
Teep's never failed anything in his fucking life, so...
He's a very smart man, he's well-spoken, and he's authoritative. If he failed, there's no hope for most of us.
Okay, so... First of all, Miles, any last words for the podcast before I kind of wrap things up here?
Mate, last words for the podcast. Thanks, Bryce, for having us on, of course, and thanks for the listeners, wherever you are, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, or those live on Twitch. Like, appreciate you all. I look forward to shitting on all of you in Cold War.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much, Miles. I'm sure to check out the stream when you go live. All right, if you are watching this, thank you so much for joining us towards the end. Again, thank you to Miles. It's always glorious talking about Call of Duty with you, my friend. And also everybody who followed. Miles, thanks for subbing while we were live. That was an interesting one I saw come up on the side screen. Thank you everyone who's followed it. Thanks for the bits actually that's just got cheered by King Frederick. King Frederick. See, I'm going to bits here. Also, if you are listening to this on the podcast or whatever, please let me know. It's actually mad how many people download this on Apple and stuff, so that's awesome to see. Subscribe to the YouTube. I have a special plan for 1,000 subs, so if I get to there, I have. It's not a massive video, but it's just something to say thank you very much. But yeah, this has been a Bryce Cast. We'll be back. We may even have 2 this week as well. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see.